it's been quite the experience. Um, so when I first found out I had ovarian, it was I didn't know it was ovarian. I had just been on a trip to France, had never been to Europe, came back, and I had found that I was going up and down the steps, and I was going to the gym, and I really was getting short of breath. I'm like, wow, what's wrong with me? I just had a really bad cold, and I thought maybe I had pneumonia. So I went to the doctor. He did a breath test with me, and he said, like, you have no air. And I'm like, I know, that's why I'm here. So he sent me immediately across the street to the hospital, and they did. Well, first when I went in, they said, had I been anywhere, any foreign countries? And I told them I'd just been in France. And they said, oh, it's probably some kind of I don't know, some kind of something that you picked up there. So I wasn't really thinking that it was anything horrible. We did a chest X-ray. I had a collapsed lung, and I had this pleural effusion. So I had like 10 pounds of fluid in my chest cavity. And even though I had ovarian, sometimes that happens where it travels up into the lining between your chest and your lung. And so they had to do a chest tube. Put the chest tube in. I was really scared because this was like I just went to the hospital, and doing all this stuff. Put the chest tube in, and all of a sudden they're getting all this fluid. And then, of course, they admitted me, got upstairs, and I had already overflowed the box with the fluid. They had to put another one on. So they did all that. And then they did, I had ultrasound, transvaginal ultrasound, CAT scan, and I had a PET scan. And all the scans that they did for me, everything came up. They couldn't find they couldn't find the tumors. So I was in the hospital for 8 days. And at the end of the 8 days, because they couldn't find a mass per se, they and couldn't find a mass, and they because they had this stuff going up one of my chest cavity, they said it's probably breast cancer. So they sent me home thinking I had breast cancer, on Arimidex, and for 7 months, every month I went in to the hospital as an outpatient, and they did a chest tube on me and took the extra fluid out. And I also had a fluoridesis done, which they tried to glue the lung to the chest, to the lining of the lung to like the chest, so the fluid can't get up. It was really painful, but it didn't work. But anyway, then I finally found a place after that many months. They found a place that they could send my fluid to. They had sent it before they came back. He sent it somewhere to determine what the cancer source was because they couldn't find a tumor. And it came back as 90% ovarian. And I was like, what? So then they made a kind of a change. They said, well, the fluid's not drying up. We're going to go in there and we're going to see what's happening. So they started with the chemo, and then they did the hysterectomy. When they went in for the hysterectomy, it turned out that instead of me having like a large tumor or mass anywhere, I have the kind of ovarian where it's like they explain it to me like fairy dust. There's those little pieces all over, so they can't really capture it, like a tumor. So the chemo helps with that, as opposed to having an operation that takes just the tumor out. They took out everything else, like my ovaries, my fallopian tubes, my cervix, part of my vagina, anything that wasn't attached, they took. And my omentum, when they went in, when the doctor came out after my surgery, he said, Cindy, I was thinking about telling you not to have the hysterectomy since we really couldn't find a tumor. And I said, well, I would have fought for it because I feel that if you can't find something, you got to go in and look for it. So instead of doing a laparoscopic hysterectomy, he cut me down 9 inches, opened up so they could look in there. And he was so surprised because as soon as they opened me up, my omentum had cancer on it, my fallopian tubes and my ovaries, but none of that showed up on any of the scans that they had done previously. Now my CA-125, my cancer marker was elevated, but that's not always a good marker for people. It is for me. So that as I got recurrences, which I've had, they can see it happening on a CA-125, where maybe somebody else they wouldn't notice it as quickly because they have this just like little pieces all over. It does show up as a elevated CA-125 cancer marker. So that's kind of how that worked. And then going from there, each time I've had a recurrence, I was pretty sure I was having a recurrence because I felt differently. I felt more full, and I just felt more tired. And I wasn't surprised when I had a recurrence. I wasn't happy, but I wasn't surprised.